All right, sounds good. I mean, before we start shit talking NA, I saw one thing that Yamato tweeted about the format, and I'm pretty sure we can all agree this format is complete dog shit. I mean, the reason why you
could pick, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why you watch Worlds is to see all the teams from all the different regions collide, play against each other. You want to see the comparison. How nice would it have been if we just got three times of a Chinese team versus a Korean team?
Of course.
Like that's
That'd be the dream.
Yeah, that would be the dream. That's what we do this stuff for. So I mean, the first thing that I wanted to talk about was just that format, because it feels so weird that like half the bracket is LPL, the other half is LCK. You got two European teams that could potentially both be eliminated in the first round, and then you don't even get to see at the end like who the real strongest region is, because it's just going to be like, all right, one LPL team, like maybe the best LPL team is worse than the best LCK team, but I want to see like all the teams fight. So I know you might have had some words on it. I would love to know his opinion.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I think some of these matchups are like, sure, maybe for an LPL fan it's good to see a rematch or whatever, but these are matches we've seen so many times in the past. It's also so disappointing to walk away from World Championship thinking like, oh, what would have happened in this matchup. I think just the idea of double elimination, like coming into these quarters, best of fives is so fucking exciting. Like the matchups we have are also exciting on their own, but there's going to be so many that we miss out on, and I think that's just a tragedy in itself. Like I think just make a double elimination, maybe put first seeds on one side, and then you have, from the get-go, you have a top piece versus down one best of five, and then maybe they face each other again at the end of the tournament. This is something that both the LEC and NA did. I think the system over in the LCK sucks when it comes to playoffs, because for the same reason you get robbed off of these beautiful best of fives, and I think it's just a massive disservice to me and to us, I assume, to anyone that wants to see these great teams face off against each other.
I mean, listen, I agree with the whole bracket thing. Like, it does suck that all the Chinese teams are on one side, all the Koreans are on the other, because obviously likelihood is, I mean, literally they're going to eliminate each other. So we're not going to actually get to see those like real matchups we haven't seen at all. But even in terms of like other storylines in the bracket, like I don't know if people know this, but from that like mid-season cup thing they did instead of MSI for Asia, where it was like LCK versus LPL, like actually Top Esports is undefeated against Korean teams. So as a result, like, wouldn't it be perfect if they were on the Korean side of the bracket? But instead, they can only at best play one Korean team, and that's if they don't get upset by like Jingdong or something, which can definitely happen. So I know that part doesn't have to do with the format, that's just happenstances of which side of the bracket you went on, but even that's kind of like made the storyline not as interesting. You can do the same on the other side. G2's had great success against Koreans, never done anything against LPL, but of course they didn't get any LPL teams less to make the final. So like, even though for every tournament, generally, if it's a really big esports tournament, I think double elim just makes the most sense. It just gets rid of a lot of these problems, etc. Like this one especially is crying out for that, because this bracket at the moment just doesn't look that great. Like, think about how long we've had to wait to get to this point. This should be the most exciting time of all, where it's like, right, this is like the night before Christmas, like, fuck, can't wait for this. But then it's like, dude, even on some of the matchups, like, who the fuck wants to see Damwon game against DRX? Like, I don't want to see that match.
I mean, we watched LCK.
Yeah, it's only been literally either a stomp for Damwon or like the worst game ever that DRX won earlier in the split. Like, these aren't good matches. Like, these aren't even games you want to see.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, there's a couple different ways you could go about it. I mean, originally in groups you have the thing where you can't have teams from the same region in each group. I don't know if there was.
I don't know why that's such a big deal, personally. You know?
Yeah, I don't know why that's such a big deal.
To me, the solution's obvious, dude. Like, that's why I made this point on Someone in Insight, but people keep missing it. You don't look at what happens and decide after the fact, like, oh, I should have changed it so that Team A could play Team B, because that's like, at that point in time, like, that's not the way any system's designed. What you need to do is this. Before you do the system, you have to think of it abstractly before you know the teams. Like, what is the principle I'm going for here? Like, for example, what is my group stage supposed to do? And if in this case, Riot really believe in that principle of like, you can't have two teams from the same region. Well, if you ask them, well, why though? Presumably they'd say something like, well, you have a limited amount of games at Worlds, so you don't want to like waste, for example, Chinese teams just playing Chinese teams, and you never get to see the matchup against someone from Europe or Brazil or wherever it might be. Well, here's the thing. If Riot really believes that, if that's the reason, it's not just that it has to be this one format, I can solve it for them. Here's one of the things you do. You make less groups. So then you can still have teams from the same region, but they will also get plenty of competition. Like the whole reason why TI, if people don't know, in the old school used to often have 2 massive groups. So that you play like, even if you go out in last place, you play like 7 opponents or something. In that setting, it doesn't really matter that you play one extra Chinese team or something if you're from China, does it? Like you'll still play the teams from Europe and teams from any. If anything, if you actually schedule it right, like it'll be more interesting for the teams that go out. Like they'll get a better spread of opponents. So my point is, if you know going in what you're looking for, we can make tweaks to the format and we can still take into account what Riot wants. By the way, we don't have to throw that out the window. Like one thing I try to do whenever I analyze things like that is I don't just go for my own idealistic fantasy of what esports should be. Like I try to also look at like what are the like realistic concerns of the tournament organizer, people like Riot, not least because, by the way, if you're trying to convince them, you need to be able to speak their language. You have to show you understand what they're going for. And I think in that area, Riot's just being a little bit sort of short-sighted. Like they're thinking, as far as I can tell, that it can only be the same format we've had for like, I think it's since season 4 Worlds now, or it has to be something, presumably something radically different. You can tweak it a little bit and we can fix a lot of these problems. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that they did better this year was the play-in stage. Like that format, when we talked about it, it's just way more conducive to finding a competitive, a result or like get competitive games if that's the goal. I mean, having the 3rd seeds play the 2nd seeds, or the way that I could see this working out pretty well if you don't want to do a million games is you do the double elimination format and you slot the 3rd seeds in each group into the losers bracket automatically. So the 3rd seeds only get single elimination, and the winners, the top 2, get double elimination. So you can still get all the great storylines. Like let's say JDG and Suning throughout the whole tournament end up being the best 2 teams. Like how epic would it be if Suning gets knocked out by JDG but then runs the entire lower bracket? I mean, they have to play against 3rd seed, so it should be like they get a layup in there, but I mean, you still get to see more games, you get to see more hype, and I feel like it's just a better result for everyone involved. And also, like, I don't really think that Worlds is overbearing or there's like too many games, right? It feels like you have all these group stage games, right? You have 8 days pure group stage. Like it takes a long time to finish, and then you get to the bracket stage and it's like, all right, there's 4 matches, then 2 matches, then 1 match, and you're done. 7 best of 5s, that's it. Like I feel like there just should be more gameplay for the best teams instead of like how many weeks of play. Like what we got how many days of play-ins plus group stage combined. Like that's the majority of the tournament. That's the majority of the games being played.